don't even know where to start. But something happened last week that changed how I see everything. My family, my home, even myself. And I can't keep it inside anymore. I was raised by two grandmas. Yeah, I know that sounds strange. Most kids have one grandma on their mom's side and one on their dad's. Me, I lived with both of mine. Grandma June and Grandma Millie. They told me they were sisters-in-law. My grandpa, who I never met, was June's husband and Millie's brother. It made sense at the time. They were always together, always fussing over the garden. Baking pies, knitting, reading the paper. They had a soft way about them, comforting like warm tea and thick blankets in winter. But even as a kid, I noticed things, like how they shared a bedroom, how they wore matching rings, not wedding rings, but silver ones with little green stones, or how they always stopped talking when I came into the room, especially when the topic was the accident. I'd hear them mention it sometimes, only in whispers, the accident, or sometimes, the night he left. But when I asked who he was, they would smile gently and say, "Just grown-up stuff, honey, nothing to worry about." I believed them, until last Thursday. It was raining hard, real hard, the kind of storm where you can feel the thunder in your chest. I couldn't sleep, so I got up to make some warm milk. As I walked past the window, something moved in the garden. At first I thought it was a raccoon, but then lightning flashed, and I saw them. Grandma June and Grandma Millie, in their raincoats, digging, in the dark, by the old apple tree at the far end of the garden. My heart jumped. I pressed my face to the glass, trying not to breathe too loudly. They weren't just digging, they were talking, fast, quiet, and nervous. "She said they'll ask questions again," Millie said. June wiped her forehead and kept shoveling. "Let them, we've kept it quiet for over 30 years. Millie paused. "Do you ever think we did the wrong thing?" That's when I felt my stomach twist. I stepped back from the window. What were they talking about? What did they bury? And who did they mean by they? I waited until they came inside, dripping wet and silent. They didn't notice me in the shadows of the hallway. I crept back to bed and pretended to sleep. The next morning, they acted like nothing happened. They made pancakes, talked about how lovely the rain was for the tulips. But I couldn't focus. All day, I kept thinking about what I saw. So when night came again, I grabbed a flashlight and went to the tree. The soil was fresh, still soft, and about 6 inches down, I found something. A small, rusted tin box. Locked, wrapped in old fabric. The fabric had a name stitched into it, David. I didn't recognize the name, but I felt something shift in my chest, like I had just opened a door to a room that was never meant for me. I haven't opened the box yet. I'm scared, but I also need answers. Who was David? What happened the night he left? And what else have my grandmas buried, besides a tin box? I'll update you all soon. But please, if anyone knows how to unlock a box like this without breaking it, let me know. Because I have a feeling what's inside might change everything I thought I knew about my family. Okay, so I finally opened the box. First, thank you to the Redditor, who suggested using steam and a hairdryer. I took my time, loosened the hinges, and after an hour, the lock popped open. Inside were 4 things. 1. A faded photograph of a young man in military uniform. 2. A crumpled newspaper clipping from 1987. 3. A small silver locket with initials engraved on it, DH. 4. And a handwritten letter addressed to me. Yeah, you read that right. To me. The letter started with, "If you're reading this, it means the truth is ready to be known. But please, read with your heart. We only ever wanted to protect you." It was signed by both June and Millie. The letter explained everything. David Hughes, was my biological grandfather. He wasn't June's husband or Millie's brother. He was Millie's fiancé, and he went missing in 1987. No goodbye, no trace, just gone. But it wasn't a mystery to them. They knew what happened, because they were there. According to the letter, David was not a good man. Behind closed doors, he was violent. He controlled Millie, humiliated her, threatened June when she tried to help. One night, things went too far. Millie said he came home drunk, shouting. He accused them of turning against him. Then he pushed Millie so hard, she hit her head on the stove. June tried to pull him off her. There was a struggle. Then, according to the letter, he fell, hit the edge of the fireplace, and never got up. They panicked. It was the 80s. 2 women, living together in a small town. No one would have believed it was self-defense. And if anyone found out they were more than just sisters-in-law, things would have been worse. So they buried him. In the garden, wrapped in the quilt Millie made for him when he came back from training. They kept the tin box hidden all these years, as a reminder, A way to tell the truth someday, if the time ever came. And I guess that time is now. The photo in the box was of David, young and smiling, with Millie clinging to his arm. But her eyes, they looked hollow, like she knew something no one else did. The newspaper clipping was short. Just a paragraph that read, David Hughes, 29, reported missing. Last seen outside a pub in Woodridge. Police encourage anyone with information to come forward. I stared at all of it for a long time. I didn't know what to feel. Shock, anger, fear, but mostly I felt sad. Sad that my grandmas had to carry that secret for so long. Sad that love, fear, and survival twisted into something so heavy they buried it in the earth. I haven't told them I opened the box yet. They're sitting in the living room right now, drinking tea and watching old game shows. As if nothing happened. As if I don't know. But I do. And tomorrow morning, I think I'm going to ask them to take a walk with me. To the tree, where the truth began. And where, maybe, healing can begin too. This morning I did it. I asked them if they wanted to go for a walk. They looked surprised but nodded. June grabbed her scarf. Millie took her usual spot by my side. We walked in silence, past the rose bushes, past the bird bath, and finally to the tree. I stopped, turned to them, held up the tin box in both hands. Their eyes locked on it, and I swear everything else disappeared. The birds went quiet. Even the wind seemed to pause. Millie's face went pale. June reached out, gently touching the top of the box. You opened it, she said softly. I nodded. No yelling, no questions yet. I just stood there waiting. Millie sat down on the bench under the apple tree. June joined her, and for a long time, none of us said anything. Until finally, Millie whispered. I knew this day would come, I just didn't think I'd live long enough to see it. Then they told me the real story. All of it, more than what was in the letter. More than I was ready for. Turns out, David wasn't just violent. He was dangerous, not just to Millie, but to me. I wasn't born yet when he died. But Millie was already pregnant. That's right. Millie is not just my grandma. She's my mother. June, she stepped in after everything happened. They moved to a different town, changed their names slightly, told people they were my grandmothers. It was easier, safer. Especially back then. They didn't want me growing up with the shadow of what happened. They wanted me to be free from all of it. To have a quiet, gentle life. And I did, until now. They raised me with love. They gave me everything. But now, knowing the truth, it's like my whole world has shifted a few feet to the left. Millie started crying. I wanted to tell you so many times, she said. But every time I looked at your face, I just wanted to protect you a little longer. June held her hand. They looked at me like they weren't sure if I'd run or scream or call the police. But I didn't. I just sat on the grass beside them. I think part of me had always known there was something deeper, something unspoken. And now that I knew, I didn't feel fear. I felt like I finally fit into the missing piece of a puzzle that had haunted me my whole life. I asked them one question. What do we do now? They both looked at each other. And June said, we tell the truth, all of it, to whoever needs to hear it, even if it's just you. So that's where I am now, sitting in my room, writing this with tears in my eyes. A box on my desk, and two women downstairs making tea like they always do. But tomorrow, we're going to visit the local police. Not because I want to see them punished, but because I think they're tired of hiding. And maybe the truth, no matter how old it is, still matters. I don't know how the world will react, but I do know one thing. I love them, and now I understand them. More updates soon. We went to the police station today. Not gonna lie, I was terrified. I kept thinking they'd take my grandmas away in handcuffs. But that's not what happened. Not at all. We walked into the small station in town. It's the same building I used to pass on my way to school. Funny how places can look completely different when your heart is pounding in your chest. Millie held my hand the whole time. June walked ahead of us, steady, like she'd rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times. We told the officer on duty, his name was Officer Tim, that we needed to speak to someone privately. He looked confused but polite, asked us to sit down in a small room off to the side. And then they started talking. June explained everything from the beginning. About David, about the night it happened, about the burial. They didn't sugarcoat it. They didn't hide behind excuses. They just told the truth. And as they spoke, I watched something change in Millie's face. Like a weight was lifting. Like 37 years of silence were being peeled off layer by layer. When they finished, the room was quiet. Officer Tim just sat there blinking. He looked overwhelmed, but not angry. Then he said something I didn't expect. This is a lot, but thank you. I'll need to make a report and inform the detective. But considering the time that's passed, this might be more about documentation than prosecution. My grandmas nodded. They had already prepared for that. They said they were willing to face whatever came. But here's the crazy part. Later that afternoon, a detective called. She asked to come to the house. Said she just wanted to understand the whole picture. She came around 4 p.m. Her name was Detective Lena Park. Calm, kind eyes. She didn't come with handcuffs or backup. She came with a notepad and a voice that sounded like she was talking to people. Not suspects. She asked more questions. Then we showed her the spot in the garden. She didn't seem surprised. She told us that back in 1987, the missing persons case for David Hughes went cold in just 3 months. No family pushed for answers. No follow-up from friends. She said it was almost like the world forgot him, but we didn't. Not the version of him that hurt Millie. Not the fear that lived in their walls. She said a team would come tomorrow to recover the site. Her words, not mine. But she also said something else I'll never forget. You didn't bury a crime, you buried your fear. Now let's bring it to light. It's strange. I always thought truth would feel like fire. But it feels more like water, washing everything clean, even if it stings. We don't know what's going to happen next. The garden might become a crime scene. Reporters might start asking questions. Old secrets might rise like weeds. But one thing is clear now. I am not the child of shadows. I am the child of survivors. And whatever happens from here, I'll be right beside them. They came this morning. Not just 1 or 2 officers. A whole forensic team. Tape, cameras, gloves, scanning gear. It felt like a crime show come to life, except it wasn't fiction. It was our backyard. Our garden. And when they started digging by the apple tree, I realized something. No matter how long ago something happened, the past doesn't stay buried. Not really. Millie sat on the porch, hands wrapped tightly around a mug of tea that had gone cold. June stood beside her, arms folded, lips pressed tight. They didn't speak. They just watched. I stood behind them, feeling useless, helpless, but determined to be there for whatever came next. After about 20 minutes, one of the officers gave a signal. They found something. They uncovered the quilt first. Even after all these years, the colors were still faintly visible through the dirt. Blue and gray, with patches of red. The kind of homemade blanket you'd wrap a newborn in. Only this one was wrapped around bones. They worked carefully, respectfully. Detective Lena was there too. She didn't say much, but she kept glancing over at us, like she was watching more than just the dig, like she was watching how much this was hurting. When the remains were fully recovered, the detective walked over to us. She crouched beside Millie, said, "We'll handle everything from here. You've been through enough." Millie nodded. Her eyes were glassy but calm. I didn't want him to keep rotting under our tree," she whispered. "He ruined so many things. He doesn't get to take the garden too." Later, they confirmed it was a male skeleton. Estimated age matched David. They're running DNA tests now to be sure, but we already know. Here's the part I didn't expect. The police aren't filing charges. The statute of limitations on involuntary manslaughter has long passed. And there's no evidence of premeditation. The injuries are consistent with a fall. Self-defense is still legally complicated, this many years later. But according to Detective Lena, this looks less like a cover-up, and more like 2 women doing what they had to do to survive. Millie cried. For the first time in days, she cried openly. She told me later, "I thought telling the truth would bring handcuffs. Instead, it brought peace." As for me, I don't know how to describe what I'm feeling. It's not just relief. It's like the air feels clearer, like the ghosts in our house have finally stopped whispering. The tree still stands, tall, unshaken, and under it now is a patch of disturbed soil, fresh, raw, honest. Tomorrow we're planting wildflowers there. Yellow ones. Millie says David used to hate yellow. She smiled when she said it. There's still more to come. We haven't told the rest of the family. I still haven't processed the fact that Millie is my mom, not just my grandma. But every day, the silence gets quieter, and my heart feels a little more steady. There's one last thing I want to do. I found an old shoebox in the attic this evening. Inside were pictures, letters, and a notebook that Millie used to write in when she was younger. Poems, some of them angry, some of them full of love. All of them hers. I think I'm going to make a book out of them, so that her voice, the real her, can finally be heard. Because secrets are heavy. But stories can heal. It's been a week since they uncovered the body, since the world found out about David Hughes, since I found out who I really am. And somehow, life hasn't stopped. The birds still sing in the morning. The kettle still whistles. Millie still makes her weird cinnamon tea that no one likes but her. But something is different. The silence is gone. For the first time in my life, our home feels light. Not perfect, but honest. Yesterday, Millie sat down with me in the kitchen. No distractions, no small talk, just 2 cups of tea and the truth between us. She told me about when she found out she was pregnant, how scared she was, how she had been planning to run away before that night even happened. I was going to disappear, she said. Start fresh, but after everything. After June, and I wrapped him in that quilt. I knew we couldn't run, we had to stay. We had to raise you right, give you something better. I asked her why she never told me. Why she let me believe she was just my grandma for so long. She looked down at her tea. I didn't want you to grow up carrying what I carried. The shame, the fear, the noise. I wanted you to have your own life, not one shaped by a man who never deserved to be remembered. And then she added, with tears in her eyes, but now I see, you deserve to know everything. You deserve to know the truth and decide for yourself. I reached across the table and took her hand. I'm not angry, I said. I just wish I had known sooner, so I could love you even more. She broke, right there. Her body shook with silent sobs, like she'd been holding her breath for 30 years. Later that night, I told June I was planning to publish Millie's poetry. She smiled. She used to write late into the night. I'd find her in the hallway with ink-stained fingers, crying over a single word. Let the world see her the way I've always seen her. I've already started scanning the pages. Some are so old, the paper crumbles at the edges. But the words, they're alive. Raw. Beautiful. One poem in particular hit me hard. Buried beneath the apple tree. I planted a lie with trembling hands, in soil too soft to hold a secret, and watched the roots grow twisted, wrapping tight around my name. But in the dark, beneath regret, something still bloomed. A child, a life, a chance at something kinder. I cried when I read that, not because it was sad, but because it was true. Tomorrow, we're having a small gathering. Not a funeral, not a memorial. Just us and a few close neighbors who have stood by us these last few days. We'll plant the yellow wildflowers together, and I'll read Millie's poem out loud under the tree. The same tree that once hid the darkest part of our past, and now holds the brightest parts of our truth. This story isn't just about a buried body. It's about buried love, buried strength, buried voices, but not anymore. Not in this house, not in this garden,